I went to Catholic school. I did everything I needed to do, boring and unattractive for me. Religion was a way to control the population. I felt empty. I was looking for paganism and New Age. If I were to kill myself or jump in front of a car. So that was when I decided that I wanted to give my life to Christ. Hi, my name is Kevin Scarangelo. I'm born and raised here in Montreal. I grew up in a Catholic family. I went to Catholic school. I went to church every Sunday when I was young. I did my communion, my confirmation. I did everything I needed to do as far as religion went. Once I got to the age where I did my confirmation, I left church. I didn't end up going back. It was something really boring and unattractive for me. It wasn't something I really paid attention to, especially being a young age. And even though my parents were believers in God and Catholics, they as well weren't strong into going to church or any of that. Fast forward a few years, going into my teenage years, I became very aware about certain practices that happen with our government, and me liking history a lot. I researched a bunch of things and I saw that religion was a way to control the population and really bring people into control. And it was something that I was against. I believed in free will and just live and let live type of thing. When I started getting older, I started doing a bit more, I got myself into a bit of drugs. I drank a lot. I felt empty, honestly. I was doing a whole bunch of things and I was just partying a lot. But I wasn't really aware of that emotion at the time. Eventually I found spirituality, but I wasn't looking towards God for any of that. I was looking for through paganism and New Age and other things. And every time I had that practice of doing something specific as a ritual or a practice that I would do, I always felt heavy, like a somber emotion, like if I was getting ready to die or go to war. That was my mentality back then. It was a very somber moment to have spirituality, and it was something that I felt was necessary for me. I had met an ex-girlfriend of mine when I was young, in my 20s, and she started taking me out of that moment. And I was living a normal life, doing everyday things, but I was still into partying and doing drugs. Years went by, my life started becoming numb. It was more of a day-to-day process of just surviving another day. I had suicidal thoughts that I wasn't aware of it being suicidal. For me, it was more of a question. Like, if I were to kill myself or jump in front of a car, it wasn't necessarily because I was depressed and I wanted to die. It was more because I want to know what happened in the afterlife. I want to know what was the next. And experiencing those things, like I said, I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of being in a depression. I wasn't aware of feeling as numb as I was actually. Speaking through friends after my relationship ended with the last person, it was those people who made me realize that I would need to see a psychiatrist or talk to somebody about these problems, because it was things that they've gone through and gotten help for, but it was something I wasn't aware that I needed. During the time, I met somebody, a friend of mine who I really got to know well, and we got a lot in common. And I had already had thought to go back to church a few times before, not necessarily because of religion, but more because I was in love with architecture, and just the way the church looked on the inside and the outside and the history behind churches. This friend asked me to go to church and I agreed, and it was a completely different experience this time around because I had the mentality of a Catholic church, so a cathedral, very somber, very quiet, very religious. It was actually a Christian church in Longueuil, and it was a very different experience. It was a concert hall setting. Everyone was dressed in regular clothes or very nice clothing, but casual. So that was a big shock to me. It was a very big culture shock. Sitting through the Mass, I was listening to the message, and I remember thinking to myself, like, this is just a powerful message. Something came over me, and on top of that, it was in French, and I'm not used to hearing French, especially at that time. My French is already bad as it is, but it was worse then. But the message still hit me. At that point, I started becoming more interested. I started reading the Bible a little bit. I started going to different churches. I started hanging around with a bunch of Christians. I started doing a bunch more things and really was thirsty to understand. And one day I just decided to speak to God on my way to work. It takes me an hour to walk to work. And from the moment I left my doorstep to the moment I got to work, I was just letting it all out, talking to God. And right before I walked into work, I felt like a huge weight has lifted off my shoulders, like a freedom in that conversation with God. And it was a presence that I never experienced before. It was something I never understood. So that was when I decided that I wanted to give my life to Christ. And for my baptism, I wanted to have it in my way, where it was in the forest or in the woods, in a lake, very natural, very, But it ended up being in my pastor's bathtub on Easter Day, which was, again, not planned. Everything just kind of felt into place. It was like God told me that moment, like, okay, do it now, do it now. So I obeyed God's voice. I gave my life to Christ on Easter Day in a bathtub. Ever since that moment, everything has been amazing. My life has completely turned around. God really worked on me. I stopped drugs, I stopped drinking. The taste in music that I had changed. My parents noticed a difference in me now. I'm happy. All the traumas that I've had when I was younger, all the stuff I've gone through, it doesn't hold any power over me anymore. God washed it away. Jesus took it away on the cross. And that friend that brought me to church for the first time now is my fiance. And I'm super happy to have met her. I'm so happy that God blessed me with her. God's given me a new life and a huge future that I never expected was possible. He made all my dreams come true and more. And praise God.